Lovely to see you all. Thank you for joining me again. Today I'm going to be talking about a poem, another poem very near and dear to me. It is William Stafford's "There's a Thread You Follow." And as I was preparing this one, I found that I had more and more to say about it. So I'm going to try to be as spare as possible. Here's the poem, and let me just share it with you all. There's a thread you follow. It goes among things that change, but it doesn't change. People wonder about what you're pursuing. You have to explain about the thread. But it's hard for others to see. While you hold it, you can't get lost. Tragedies happen. People get hurt or die, and you suffer and get old. Nothing you do can stop time's unfolding. You don't ever let go of the thread. Highly memorizable poem. There's a thread you follow. There's a thread you follow. It goes among things that change, but it doesn't change. People wonder about what you're pursuing. You have to explain about the thread, but it's hard for others to see. While you hold it, you can't get lost. Tragedies happen. People get hurt or die, and you suffer and get old. Nothing you do can stop time's unfolding. You don't ever let go of the thread. So let's take a comfortable position. Feet flat on the floor, straightening the back. Eyes closed if you feel comfortable doing that, or half closed. Your hands facing upward on your lap or down on your lap. Whatever offers you that perspective of attention and relaxation and release. And then let your breathing slow and let your shoulders fall. And release the belly. Just relaxing and releasing whatever it is you're holding on to today. Deepening the breath. Three counts in, four counts out. And then 4 counts in. And 5 counts out. And let's do the Tonglen on ourselves. Breathing in whatever it is you're worried about today. And just letting it pass through like wind through the trees. On the exhale. Breathing in that worry, breathing in that suffering. And then letting it pass through the trees with compassion. Viktor Frankl, who wrote Man's Search for Meaning, talks about this as logotherapy. He touches on this idea of just really looking at the things you're worried about, just turning around and looking at them. If you're nervous about a job interview, just say, all right, bring on the nerves. Let's see how nervous I can be. And like that, it just dissolves. Like arrows turning into flowers for the Buddha. And then remembering your seat, remembering where you are if your mind is wandering. Just watching the movie of your thoughts or your feelings. Remembering that you're here and that that's the meditation. For the last 2 minutes, just make the tree very still. Just focus on being here and that quietness. There's a thread you follow. There's a thread you follow. It goes among things that change, but it doesn't change. People wonder about what you're pursuing. You have to explain about the thread, but it's hard for others to see. While you hold it, you can't get lost. Tragedies happen. People get hurt or die, and you suffer and get old. Nothing you do can stop time's unfolding. You don't ever let go of the thread. William Stafford died almost exactly 30 years ago at 81. He is well known as a poet who was of the plains. He grew up in Kansas. He spent most of his early life to adulthood in Kansas. He studied there. His poetry is plain like Kansas. And he was drafted into the Army in 1941 while he was in the middle of a master's degree, and declared himself a pacifist. So he was registered as a conscientious objector, and from 1942 until 1946, he served in the civilian public service camps, making about $2.50 a month in forestry and soil conservation in Arkansas and California and other places. And it's a really famous part of his story. He wrote a book called Down in My Heart after he got out, which is his memoir of those years working in the camps. But by 1954, he went on to work at Lewis and Clark College, a little college in Oregon, and spent the rest of his career there. The other thing that he's known for is that he started late. He was 48 when his first book was published, and it won the National Book Award. It's called Traveling Through the Dark. And you hear even in that title the confrontation with uncertainty that became a lifelong obsession in his poetry, traveling through the dark and the things that we meet there along the way. He broke lots of other stereotypes about writers too, not just being an older writer who started right out of the gate winning the National Book Award, but his personal life was contained and plain. It was a family life. It was in a small town in Oregon. And the work itself was just very declarative and had spare images in it, in its landscapes. It seems that his life and his work were exactly about what he's talking about here, just following the thread. What is it that doesn't change? That's the real thing. All of this change happening around us, all of this aging, all of this suffering, all of this powerfully hypnotic permutations and impermanence. And yet there's something that doesn't change. And that's the thing he's telling us to hold on to and to follow, traveling through the dark. Just hold on to the thread. So this poem is about letting go of worry. That's how I read it. Letting go of the worry of what people may think and letting go of the worry of what might happen. So I was talking to a former student from years ago and a friend now who's finishing up an MFA program and is very worried about what might happen next. And he spent, the last 7 or 8 years dedicating himself to this practice. And now it looks like there's a door and the door doesn't have any sign on it. It's a door that he has to pass through. And he's just not sure what's going to happen next. And we started talking about driving at night, traveling through the dark, and how we might worry about what might happen 2.7 miles from here. There's only one thing that we know. It's that the headlights will be there to see it. So this conversation we had became very powerful for me because it's about the thread, or it's about the headlights. It's about awareness. It's about that being the thing that doesn't change. That as long as you're aware, you'll be able to look at whatever happens. And that just dissolves the worry. Like in logotherapy, you just look at it and it turns into flowers. He said this about the craft of his life, and it applies to his poetry too. I keep following this sort of hidden river of my life. Whatever the topic or impulse comes, I follow it along trustingly. And I don't have any sense of its coming to a kind of crescendo or of its petering out either. It's just going steadily along like a quiet river. There's no sense of an arc. There's no sense of what is this coming to. There's no sense of a climax. There's no sense of a disappointment. It's just moving along, and I'm following that river. Here's the poem again. There's a thread you follow. There's a thread you follow. It goes among things that change, but it doesn't change. People wonder about what you're pursuing. You have to explain about the thread, but it's hard for others to see. While you hold it, you can't get lost. Tragedies happen, people get hurt or die, and you suffer and get old. Nothing you do can stop time's unfolding. You don't ever let go of the thread. Let's go back in for another 10 minutes, and I have a question to lead us here. Feet flat, hands on your lap. Soften the belly. What was your smartest day? What was the day you can mark in your memory when nothing anyone told you could have dissuaded you from what you knew the next right thing was to do? You didn't need their advice. You could explain it to them, but maybe they even wouldn't understand. It's okay. You don't take it personally. It's your smartest day. What were you doing? Where were you that day? What did that feel like? The second part is there a practice that's a part of your life, whether it's writing a poem or playing music, meditating, prayer, reading, sacred reading? Is there a practice that takes you back to that thread that you had that wonderful grasp upon on your smartest day? Is there something every day that brings you back to it? Is it just holding the door open for a stranger? You just know what the next right thing is when you're holding on to the thread. And then just turn back to that tree without wind, some live oak in the middle of nowhere. Remember that stillness. I'm going to read a couple of lines from various traditions about worry. From Catholicism, a Catholic saint, Padre Pio: pray, hope, and don't worry. Worry is useless. In Judaism, there's the idea of bitachon, which is about trust. It's been called a powerful sense of optimism and confidence based not on reason or experience, but in God. John Keats, my guy, my favorite poet, talks about negative capability. negative capability is the ability to be among uncertainties without any grasping towards logic or reason. He talked about that when he was on the verge of dying of tuberculosis. Out of Islam, the Sufi poet Rumi, who we've spoken of in this room, says, don't worry that your life is turning upside down. How do you know the side you're used to is any better than the one to come? Everybody agrees, and yet we all do it. Don't worry. There's a thread you follow. There's a thread you follow. It goes among things that change, but it doesn't change. People wonder about what you're pursuing. You have to explain about the thread, but it's hard for others to see. While you hold it, you can't get lost. Tragedies happen, people get hurt or die, and you suffer and get old. Nothing you can do can stop time's unfolding. You don't ever let go of the thread. Thank you, everyone. Wonderful to see you. Have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you.
You.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you, David, and everyone.
Thank you all.
So lovely.
So good to see you,
Thank you, David.
Shirley.
I was early today.
All right.
Thanks, David.
Thank you all.